Welcome to the Mindset of Matter YouTube channel. I am Christina Hathaway, the founder and CEO of the Mindset of Matter coaching program, and I thank you for joining us. This program was designed to help those people who seem to be doing the same thing over and over and over again in regards to their health and wellness, but not getting the results that they want. They're on this hamster wheel of insanity because they keep trying to change behaviors in the same way, but patterns get in their way. The Mindset of Matter is here to help you recognize the thinking and feeling patterns that continue to keep you from achieving your goals. We will help you understand how your upbringing and your ability to be seen, heard, and authenticated has created ways of existing that keep you from being successful. If you grew up thinking or feeling or being told directly that you're only as good as how you perform, what you achieve, how you look, how others perceive you, or how you take care of others' feelings, then it's going to be very hard for you to truly take care of yourself with respect and acceptance. And so this channel is here to, again, educate you, provide you with examples of how we work with people on changing these behaviors, and give you tools to take away to try to do, make this change in your day-to-day life. And so please ask any questions you have. Please like and subscribe. And please let us know if there's any topic that you'd like us to cover. Talk to you soon.
Okay. Okay. All right, guys, I'll have you mute yourself, please. Need to pull this up. I love you. Someone's not on mute. Thank you. Awesome. Let me let everyone in. We've got a big crowd. That makes me feel happy. Awesome. And you should probably see me. I have 17 things open. Okay. All right. Perfect. Sorry, I had to like kick you guys out and then bring you in because I was on a call and I didn't want this recording to include my call, so I had to close out and open it back up. So thank you for your patience. Awesome. All right. So very important topic and one that seems too good to be true for most people. So I'm really glad you guys are on. And I will get started here in a sec. Let me just plug in my microphone and this. And perfect. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I will, I have a presentation. So if at any time you have any questions, just let me know and I will, or you can put them in the chat. So today we are talking about, got another person in. We're talking about the importance of the reverse diet, and not just the importance of the reverse diet, but why the reverse diet and maintenance is so important in regards to this process. Being someone who grew up, 80s and 90s, the message was always, less food, more movement. And at the time, we didn't have a good understanding. We still don't have a good understanding of how the human metabolism works. And so as we learn more and we educate ourselves and really look at the fact that if that was true, we wouldn't have an obesity epidemic, right? There's a reason why we don't have a weight loss issue, right? We have a maintenance of weight loss issue. We have an issue with muscle loss. And so today we're going to talk about it. And for a lot of you, this concept is almost like so mind-boggling, right? Like, how could I ever eat more calories and look amazing? I'll ask you guys, if you're not muted already, to please mute yourself. How is this even possible? Because I know that even on a smaller amount of calories, I maintain my weight. Some of you have seen that, right? So we're going to talk about the science. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it in a way that hopefully is digestible, and then go through some definitions and so on. So, you know me, I don't need an introduction. Well, actually, I think everyone here knows me. Again, you guys, if you could mute, I can hear some feedback. So, I think everyone on here is my client or has been at some point. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started. So does this sound familiar? Emily's 40-year-old worker embarked on her fitness journey to get in shape. Initially, she started by significantly cutting her calorie intake and adding regular gym sessions into her routine. This approach led to initial weight loss, but soon her progress stalled. Despite continued efforts, the scale refused to budge. In an attempt to increase her weight loss, she drastically reduced her calories again and increased her physical activity. But this only led to more fatigue and no significant progress in her weight loss efforts. Out of frustration, she reached a point where she decided to abandon all restriction and indulge in whatever she craved, leading to a phase of overeating. This sudden change in her eating habits resulted in a rapid weight gain. Not only did she regain the weight she had initially lost, but she also gained additional pounds. When Emily tried to return to the more structured diet and exercise routine, she found it even more challenging than before to lose the weight. The weight loss was harder and her motivation took a significant hit. Emily's story is a common one, reflecting the complexities and challenges of managing diet and exercise, and it underscores the importance of balance, understanding one's body, and avoiding extreme measures in pursuit of the fitness goal. I put on here a little note. This is also around kind of the off-on mentality, which we'll talk about. So it's not just the gal who's been it's the gal who's been in the prolonged deficit, of course, and not giving her body what it needs, but also when we do this kind of, I'm good 2 weeks and then I fall off 1 week, it's almost like there is some validity to that, in regards to your body getting not enough energy and then getting a ton of energy at one time, that the body will adapt even when it's in these smaller increments. There is a way to do it in a more structured way. So I'm sure we can all relate to this. So that's why we're here to talk about the reverse diet. So as I mentioned, this concept of caloric deficit has been the go-to strategy, right? It has always been calories in versus calories out. However, and I don't know if you guys know where the reverse diet really kind of got a claim to fame. It was actually from Lane Norton, who trained bodybuilders. And he would see that after people came out of competition, they would gain a ton of weight because they do, just go back to their normal way of eating, thinking that, well, they're in this very lean body. I can just go back and eat an excess of calories. But what would happen is they would drastically gain after this time, after this prolonged period of restriction, training, all of that. And then when it came to their next show, they would really struggle. And these are professionals, right? These were people whose job it is to lose weight or look a certain way. And so if you didn't know that, that's where it comes from. But again, the spotlight is on the reverse diet, a method that promises weight loss and sustained health over time. Today, like I said, we'll talk about the science and practicality of the reverse diet. Why does it often surpass a traditional calorie deficit, especially when considering metabolic health, muscle maintenance, and overall well-being? And we'll dissect how the reverse diet will shape the body and the things we need to do in an effort to maintain. So what happens to the body when we cut calories? So the law of thermodynamics is basically a law that says there's two laws. I'm trying to see myself here, but I don't know how to do it. Okay. First law is a law that states that energy can neither be created nor destroyed, only transferred from one form to another. So from food to glucose, okay, or glycogen. In the context of human metabolism, this translates to the concept energy we gain from food can either be used for your body for various functions or stored in the form of fat or muscle. Now, one thing I highlighted here is that the law of thermodynamics is a fundamental principle that governs energy in the universe, okay? the universe, right? And so while it's not just our physical symptoms, but it's also biological. And obviously, what we're talking about today is the human metabolism. But that word, when I was doing my research and putting this together, stood out to me. It's like this is beyond you, but also you too. And so keep that in mind. The second law of thermodynamics suggests that the systems tend to move toward disorder or entropy. When applied to metabolism, it applies to energy conversion. Energy conversion processes like digesting food and exercises. Um, when applied to metabolism, it implies that the energy conversion processes are not 100% efficient, and some energy is always lost as heat. We're not going to focus on this as much. We're going to focus on the former. So, for those of you who don't know, or for a lot of coaching, it's just repeating ourselves. How we burn energy on a daily basis is in four ways. And for a lot of people, they assume that their planned exercise is the top provider of energy burned. That is 1000% incorrect. Our total daily energy expenditure is the amount of energy we burn on a daily basis. 60 to 70% of that is burned at rest, our BMR. Okay. And so functions like breathing and digesting, recovering from workouts, that happens at rest. And what it means to be at rest is without movement. Okay. So 60 to 70% of the energy that you provide yourself is burned at rest. Then we have the exercise activity thermogenesis. This makes up for about 5 to 10% of your daily energy burned. I know you guys have heard me say this before. Our activity trackers do not give us an accurate overview of the energy we burn. And so a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll say, okay, well, my Apple Watch says I burned 2,400 calories. I know that a deficit is 500 calories, so I'll eat 1,900 calories, right? But again, the Apple Watch, the Fitbit, we use it for things like steps, maybe for sleep. But when it comes to actual calorie burn, unless you're in a lab connected to all these little electrodes, we're not going to get a good understanding of that. And even then, the metabolism is so complex that that still has a bit of inaccuracy. Next, we have NEAT. Now, NEAT is non-exercise or non-planned activity. Think walking to the bathroom, cleaning the dishes, petting your dog. Non-exercise activity makes up 20% of the energy we burn in a day. And then we have the thermic effect of food. So the amount of the heat that our body uses to digest food. That's about the same amount of calories burned as planned exercise. So again, this is why at the Mindset Matter, we explain it is about doing the minimal amount of effort for the maximum amount of results. Because as you'll learn, if I'm solely focusing on this as my energy expenditure, then I'm going to overdo it here. When I overdo it here, I make up for it here. The body will adapt here. Your hormones will get off balance. You'll not rest as well. And so you're really, doing yourself a disservice when we're trying to focus on exercise activity thermogenesis as our number one way to quote unquote burn calories. Let me know, you guys, if you have any questions. I found this from Precision Nutrition: factors that influence energy in, factors that influence energy out, appetite influenced by hormones. We have two hormones that influence our appetite: ghrelin and leptin. Okay. Ghrelin tells us we're hungry. Leptin tells us we're full. They regulate appetite and satiety, energy in the foods that we consume. And I want to point out one important part of this is influenced by availability, palatability, and energy density. We talk a lot about processed foods versus whole foods. And a processed food's energy density is very low. Like it is not, the body doesn't take much energy to process or to process that food, right? It kind of just goes through the system because there's no nutrients for the body to then suck out of that food and then take to its cells or take to where it needs to. That process takes energy, right? Whereas when I eat a whole egg, right? There are many different macros, or there's macro, obviously fats and proteins, and then micros in that egg that then my body has to use energy to take that little egg and go boop, 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 and put it towards all the things that I need from that egg. Okay. So I say this to you to give you a different perspective on these whole foods. There's this freaking war of like diet culture, and like the people over here are like only eat plants or paleo. And now obviously these people over here are looking more at it as a nutrient, that in this case where we're talking about the energy density of the food. The problem is we've vilified whole foods as a diet culture thing. When I'm talking straight up innate, hunter and gatherer stuff, we need these foods to survive. Like our bodies literally have processes to take the nutrients out of whole foods so that we can survive. So I will get off my little soapbox now. Calories absorbed, influenced by macronutrient intake, food prep, age, so on and so forth, and psychological factors, right? Stress levels, mindset, perceived control, self esteem, and sleep quality. And as we already talked about, energy out, energy burned at rest, burned through exercise, burned through non exercise, and burned through metabolizing food. So we often talk about this part. I thought it was interesting that this little graphic had both. Okay, so what happens when we are in a prolonged period of food scarcity? Okay. Now, as women, we especially our bodies have a want to stay in homeostasis. Homeostasis is, all of our levels, all of our systems kind of at this content place, right? We're not asking too much, we're not asking too little, we're just chilling, right? As women, our bodies really thrive in that place because our bodies specifically are always looking to make sure that it is safe to reproduce. This is very important. When our period is one of the greatest indicators of health. Now, that doesn't mean that you're unhealthy when you go through menopause, but like when you're premenopausal, our periods are a very good indicator of health, right? And the body is going to tell us if we're healthy or not, right? And I know for me as a dancer, I lost my period for many, many years because my body fat was so low that my body was like, nah, girl. And, I was also very young, but we're not doing that right now, right? And so I say this because oftentimes a lot of the research that we read are on men who are non-reproductive. So really be careful of the research that you gather and make sure that it is research that pertains to you, whether you are perimenopausal, postmenopausal, premenopausal, make sure it pertains to you. Anywho. Okay, so the body responds to a calorie restriction. So when there's a reduced calorie intake, your body adapts by slowing down its metabolic rate, or that BMR we talked about. It does this to conserve energy. This again is a protective measure and is ensuring that the essential bodily functions can continue despite reduced food or energy availability. This makes weight loss difficult over time. I want you to think about this. Like the body's goal at all times is to protect the brain and to adapt to stress. Okay. And so if for whatever reason the body is, feeling like I can't protect the brain, I'm not getting enough food in, it's going to take away from other processes that aren't the brain that it doesn't need in that moment. It's going to slow them down so that it can conserve energy to protect the brain. Okay. No one's ever said that. That's not like research. That's just one of the dumb things I say for you guys to remember stuff. Uh, okay. The response to increase physical activity. Similarly, when you significantly increase your activity, your body becomes more efficient at using energy, often adjusting by lowering your resting metabolism. So I used to do some dumb shit. I used to do 2 1-hour F45 classes which were on Saturdays, back to back. So dumb. And this is before, I mean, even as a trainer, okay? And you know me, I'm always going to call myself out. I was like, more is better. This was like 10 years ago. And what would happen? The rest of the day, I felt like absolute garbage. And I just sat around and did nothing because my body was like, oh, you wanted to burn X amount during that time? Well, guess what? I'm not going to give you energy for the rest of the day because you just basically burned a significant amount of it. So it slows down our NEAT, right? It becomes more efficient at using that energy. And then again, it also adapts or slows down our resting metabolism. So what happens during this time? When our bodies are adapting to the lack of energy in, we talked about it slowing down other processes. Okay. One of those main things is muscle mass reduction. Along with the slowed BMR, a severe calorie deficit can lead to muscle breakdown. The body may start using muscle tissue for energy. Remember, energy can be transferred, right? It's transferred to fat, it's transferred to muscle, right? Reducing muscle mass. This becomes problematic because muscle is metabolically active and crucial in maintaining a higher metabolism. So let's talk about Ozempic for a while, okay? Ozempic, and I'm going to guess most people administering Ozempic or semaglutide, GLP-1, are not focusing on how much muscle is this person going to preserve. Their sole goal is to lose weight on a scale. They don't give a shit if that weight is muscle or fat, or they don't even know that that's a thing, right? And so we'll see these people lose 30 pounds and end up with a higher body fat percentage than they started with. Why? Because I've just lost a significant amount of muscle mass, right? So now instead of having, I don't know, it being 20% body fat, now I'm 30% body fat and I weigh less. So keep that in mind. That's one of the main reasons you hear about, like, I think they call it like Ozempic face or Ozempic butt or whatever it is. The other thing that happens too, which is really important, which goes with this, is that our buildup hormones are decreased and our breakdown hormones are increased. So testosterone, growth hormone, these are things that are essential for muscle mass and overall physical well-being. Obviously, as we've talked about, being in a deficit can decrease those hormones, hindering muscle growth. And then building up hormones, catabolic hormones, things like cortisol, epinephrine, will increase because the body assumes it's in a stress state. It keeps that stress high so that it can keep pushing forward. And so what happens when we have a I won't say long term, but a prolonged amount of things like stress hormones, we have more visceral fat around our bellies. It can also cause, obviously, issues with emotional awareness and stuff like that. So if you think about the stress that the body goes through in a calorie deficit, you can understand why the body has created these feedback loops and survival skills, because it really can be detrimental if you are in a prolonged calorie deficit. And so we've talked about this already. One thing I think is important to note is this here is like, so people will be like, okay, I don't understand. So I, I don't have a good example for this, but like, I'll read this and then maybe it'll come to me. Like, as your body size reduces, so you get smaller, you require less energy and your metabolisms adjust to becoming more efficient. This adaptation means that you burn fewer calories from physical movement, further diminishing overall energy output. So think about this. So I get smaller, right? My body adapts. I'm not burning as much in my physical movement. I'm not burning as much at rest. I'm not, so on and so forth. Things again, like digestion slow down. One thing I think is really important about a calorie deficit calorie deficit in digestion is, remember when I talked about that egg and the body taking that egg and using energy to take the nutrients from that egg and go like this? Think about when you don't have enough food coming in. The body is going to suck every single little nutrient out of that egg because it is afraid that it's not going to get enough nutrients to survive. So it takes that egg and goes like, right? And then you don't have a lot of waste to digest. So that's why in a calorie deficit too, our poops aren't that great, right? And so all of this to be said, dieting gets harder, your body metabolically adapts. And while you are, so this line here is your calories in, right? So as your calories go down, so do things like your energy expenditure, your thermic effect of food, and your resting metabolism, and so on. So I'm going to stop here and give you an example, and then I want to know if you guys have any questions. So think about it this way. If I was to have a rechargeable battery that has been drained for a prolonged amount of time, right? So we're talking in this case, your body and calorie restriction. In this depleted state, the battery's capacity to hold charge, aka the body's metabolism, is not at its fullest. Now, if you suddenly try to recharge the battery at full power, aka return back to normal calorie diet immediately, it can overwhelm the battery and reduce its overall lifespan or efficiency. So, this is the part where if I'm this, right? If I'm this person, and then here I decide to go back to eating this, what happens? These processes have slowed down, so my resting metabolism is down here. But I decide to come back and eat up here. What have I done? I've put my body in a calorie surplus, but also I've given my body an excess amount of energy that has not been used to. And so the body will create more fat cells to store that energy just in case it goes back into this starvation process. Okay. And so this is why, guys, you'll lose weight and plateau, get pissed, go eat, do the all or nothing, go back to where you went or go back to where your calories were. And in your mind, you're like, well, that's how I used to eat. I'll just go back there. Not realizing how different your body is, how much slower your metabolism is. The body is not just going to go right back to where it should be. The body's like, nah, girl, I don't trust you. I've already had to make all these adaptations because you didn't take care of me. And now you want to feed me? No, that's not going to happen. So, in the best approach, we want to recharge that battery slowly and steadily. By doing this, the battery's capacity to hold a charge gradually improves without causing any damage or reducing its efficiency. This is similar to gradually increasing the intake to boost the metabolism and recover muscle mass without gaining excess body fat. This method ensures that the battery returns to its optimal functioning state. The body achieves healthy metabolism in a controlled and sustainable manner. This is metabolic adaptation. The top part, bottom part is how we use a reverse diet to avoid what I just talked about. And so let me know if you guys have any questions. This can get real sciencey. We're going to talk about what that means in a second, but I really want to open up because I know you guys have questions. Like, help me help you. Help me, where you're like, I still don't get it. I don't get how eating more calories in one fashion causes weight gain, but eating more calories in another fashion doesn't. Like, what are your questions? Throw them in the chat. I'm not moving on until you do. And if you don't, I'm going to assume that I will get 0 questions about this process after this because I've done such an amazing job. All right. One more graph here, I think. I don't remember how I put the, yeah, okay. So this again is the red is your weight, the dotted line is calorie intake, and the blue line is metabolic rate. So just as I had mentioned, oops, here, the little sloth guy. When we are yo-yo dieting, we go down, right? And then we come back up. If we do that too quickly, right? Our this is our calories too, right? What happens is you can see the metabolism went down, but it didn't meet the energy in. It's right underneath the energy in. So if this is my metabolism, right? And this is my calorie intake, this is a surplus. So I will see weight gain. Then I go at it again, right? This time my metabolism drops even lower. So you'll see this response gets even more drastic over time. So my weight comes down, as well as my calories, my metabolism, which is to be expected. However, when I jump back up, then my surplus is even greater the next time around. So see how that surplus here is a bit smaller than here? The more I do it, the more likely this is to happen. With the reverse diet, we go down, right? That's if you guys are in a deficit. Some of you won't even ever live in a deficit, which is fabulous. It's a glorious feeling. When I slowly bring my calories up, look at my metabolism, kind of just, hangs out with me. And what doesn't go up is my weight. And if it does, it's minimal. And if it does, most likely, if you're doing it right, which we'll talk about wrong ways to do this, it will be muscle. So, questions? No questions. All right. Let's talk about the reverse diet. So, reverse diet is a nutritional strategy aimed at gradually increasing calorie intake from a period of caloric restriction, such as diet or bodybuilding competition. Now, for some of you walking into this program, I started reverse dieting you from the get-go because of whatever it is you showed me you were in, what your intake looked like. It was not enough. And so I want to see your set point. I want to understand your body. I want to understand what your total daily energy expenditure is. But for a lot of you, you'll go into a calorie restriction. And with us, it should only be for a short period of time. I don't believe in prolonged calorie deficits from a mental, physical, emotional point of view. I have done that in the past. I will 1000% call my out. I've worked for a company who literally would keep people in calorie restrictions for the rest of their lives if they could. So I've learned my lesson. The process of slowing by adding calories to the diet, primarily focusing on balanced intake of macronutrients, helps to boost the metabolism and rebuild muscle mass while minimizing fat gain. The method is used to assist the body's metabolism in recovering from the low calorie intake, typically involving careful adjustments and monitoring of protein, fat, and carbohydrates. Yeah. So great question. I will answer that in 1 second. So how we reverse diet. So the first thing we're going to do is start with your current calorie intake. Okay. Begin, whether it's you work with us, so we know what you're consuming. We'll make small incremental increases each week. Peyton, this will answer your question. Slightly increasing your caloric intake. This can be done in 50 to 100 calories per week. The idea is to do it slowly to avoid sudden weight gain. We, as coaches, or when you guys do this on your own, monitor and adjust, keeping an eye on your body's response. So this is where it is from person to person. If you're not gaining unwanted fat, okay, didn't say weight, fat, you can continue to gradually increase your calories. Because if I'm not gaining unwanted fat, that means my body's not creating new fat cells to store, nor are my fat cells growing. You can continually gradually increase your calories. If you start to gain more fat than desired, you can slow down the rate of increase. This is on average, not day over day, meaning we do use the scale to help us in a reverse diet, but for some of you, I don't use the scale at all. I use things like progress photos, DEXA scans, your lifts, how you feel in your clothes, because this scale might even go up a little bit, but you look amazing and you feel amazing, right? Now, if we're seeing a pattern of increase, and if we're not necessarily seeing a change in the body composition, then we know we're doing what they call a dirty bulk, where a lot of your calories are coming from processed foods or alcohol or whatever that is. So again, we're focusing on increasing calories, but ensuring we're consuming a balanced diet of protein, carbs, and fats to support the body's needs. And the aim with this reverse diet is to get you at maintenance. Great question. Does the source of calories affect this? We want to be hitting a gram of protein per body weight. Okay. And so as long as we're hitting that gram of protein per body weight, and what I mean by that is if you're, if you're 150 pounds, you'd hit 150 grams of protein. Now, for someone who is in the process of losing weight over time, right? Because we can use this reverse diet in conjunction, well, not in conjunction with, but in a plan that also includes mini cuts, right? So if you're a person who we're looking at this from a long-term perspective, we will have your goal weight or a target weight. So say I'm 250 pounds and, from a health perspective, I'm going to get to around 180 or a certain BMI or whatever that is. Then I'd eat 180 pounds of protein. Carbs and fats are really based on the person. For some people, they either just out of what's in their repertoire of recipes, they may be more carb focused. They may have more, some of my clients like more fats. Depending on hormonal profiles, we would make adjustments. Things like autoimmune issues would make adjustments. Obviously, allergies would make adjustments. And so again, n- just to put this into perspective, 1 gram of protein and 1 gram of carbs both are 4 calories. Okay. Now, both of these things have a different job in the body, but they both equal the same amount of calorie intake per gram. Fat, on the other hand, is 9 grams of calories, but again, has its own function in the body. So it is, again, up to the person in each individual's body. So our goal with this reverse diet is to get to maintenance. And even maintenance, guys, is not one number. There's some research that says you have maintenance and it's about a 500 calorie difference, or I'm sorry, 400 calorie like range, where people can eat 400 calories over this lower point and not see a big increase in weight. If they do it correctly, they'll actually see a big increase in muscle mass, and a decrease in fat mass. So again, if we have this wide range, we've got to just play with it. We've got to get okay with like pushing it up and pushing it up, because when I can sustain my weight at 2,500 calories, which some of you are like, that's so much food. I hear that a lot. And I say something really shitty. I say, if that was processed foods, it'd be easy to eat. When it's whole foods, it's tough to eat. If I'm, I can drink, 2,500 calories, maybe not that much. I can drink 1,000 calories in wine, right? Easy. I can eat. I can literally go and be with a girlfriend, have some wine and some charcuterie, and be like 2,000 calories in one serving. So let's cut the bullshit. When we eat processed foods, it's very easy to hit these 2,500 calories. It's when we eat whole foods when it becomes a little bit more difficult. And as coaches, we will help walk you through that. But if I can get you to like 2,500 calories, even 3,000 calories for some people, when you do have an event or we want to just shed some body fat, we cut at 2,500 or we cut at 2,000. The body likes 2,000 calories much more than it likes 1,300 calories, right? You're so above that basal metabolic rate that we don't even have to tap into it, making this process so much easier mentally, easier physically, and honestly, it makes the time in a deficit shorter. So keep that in mind. So again, this little thing that I found. So you're in a fat loss phase, right? You start at 2100, you go down to whatever 1400, not with me. And then we slowly bring the calories up. And because now you are a smaller human, you're 15 pounds down, your new maintenance is going to be a bit initially will be a bit lower than what you started from because you're a smaller human. However, we can still push, right? Still push that up. And during that push up, or if you're brave enough, go into a bulk, you're going to gain lean muscle mass. When I gain lean muscle mass, my maintenance naturally goes up, even if I'm still 15 pounds down. Okay. Muscle tissue is a metabolically charged tissue. It requires more energy to sustain. So the more muscle I have, the more food I can eat or need to eat so that I maintain that muscle. Okay. So I can weigh exactly the same weight and have more lean body mass, right? And eat more calories. So I can still be this 15 pounds down. During my maintenance phase or a bulk, I increase my lean body mass. And during that, because of that lean body mass, say it's 10 pounds or whatever it is, my new maintenance may even be higher than when I was 15 pounds heavier. Okay. Because I'm stronger. Boop, boop, boop. Okay. Reverse diet continued. If you increase your calories gradually, your body will adapt in other direction. This phenomenon is known as adaptive thermogenesis, which basically means your body wastes calories as heat, which we talked about. When done properly, reverse dieting provides several metabolic benefits. Your basal metabolic rate rises, resulting in more energy out. Your workout capacity increases thanks to new available energy, increasing energy out. NEAT increases for the same reason, resulting in more energy out. Digestion returns to normal, so your GI tract is no longer squeezing every bit of sustenance from every morsel, decreasing energy in. So, all of the things that burn energy become more excessive. Like we're burning more calories out. So that's where how could I possibly eat more and not gain weight makes sense. We're not jumping straight to where we used to eat. We're allowing the body to adapt to this new amount of energy in, right? Getting to a place where we're not losing, we're not gaining. And for my wild ones out there, and I love when you guys ask me this question, can I eat some more calories? Absolutely. Up and up and up as high as we possibly can. Stay there, love it, gain some muscle. And then when you need to, if you ever need to, we cut here instead of down here. Question. What would I say? How many calories should eat? So, super heavy. So, what I would say here is I would have you challenge that yourself or with Piper. So I would do exactly what so that's when you graduate. So this is a great question. So to gauge this on your own, you would, what I would have you do is track your food for a couple of weeks and get an average caloric intake, right? Also get a weight so that I'm staying with my range. Remember, you guys, your weight is not just like every other system in your body. It is not the same at any given time. Just like your heart rate is not the same, just like your blood pressure is not the same, your weight is not the same. It fluctuates. So we want to take weight every day. We want to take an average for the week. And we're staying within a range, a 3 to 5 pound range that feels comfortable. I'm about a 4 pound range. And now as I got older, it's actually now like a 5 pound range, 6 pound range, which is fine. Take the weight. If you're not seeing, any sort of movement, okay, I'd push it up another 100 calories. Repeat the process. 2 weeks, eating at that 100. Do it again. Do it as many times as you need. Your body will tell you where it should go. because I can give you a range of calories just like any of these calculators online, but it's up to you to listen to your body and to do this kind of science project on yourself to see where your body wants to live. Because where my body lives, for my body fat percentage and my metabolic rate and my hormonal profile and my age and all of that is different than another 41-year-old, right? And so that's how you do it. You just 100 calories every 2 weeks, make sure you're tracking correctly, keep your weight so you know, okay, I'm within range. Don't freak out when you have a high day, okay? It's going to happen. I ate the exact amount that I ate the day before this morning. It was up on the scale, right? Because again, for whatever reason, I was up on the scale. We take that average. So hopefully that answers your question. And I would challenge you guys if you're doing this on your own, don't just stop when, maintenance is whatever it is. Like keep pushing. And if you see your average intake go up, average weight go up for say 2 to 3 weeks, guess what? You can always come back down 100 calories. So I guess I didn't answer that part. Once you hit a place where you start seeing an increase, we just bring it down, right? We just bring it down 100 calories. We're not going into a deficit. We're bringing it down 100 calories, right? Because that's where that shift happened. That's where we know we're in a surplus now. And now we're gaining, weight. And again, it might be muscle, but like once that happens, or you feel like you simply can't eat in any more calories, then we stop. Great, great questions. So I brought these pictures. These women are all the same. This is the same weight for each of them. Okay. And so just remembering that the scale weight is not necessarily why, people go into these diets. It's to look a certain way. And if we do it correctly, building and, maintaining, you will have a difference in your body. You'll look differently because muscle, again, the way I say it to my clients is my AirPods are a pound of muscle and my phone is a pound of fat. Both weigh a pound, right? And so just keep that in mind. When you're gaining muscle, you're not, your body's not paring it down to conserve energy. You're going to look a lot different. Okay, so now what? What do we do though, right? So we talked about how to get there. We talked about what it is, gradually increasing the calories, taking the data, pushing it up as high as possible. But what are other things that we can do during this time? Strength training. Strength training boosts your metabolism. Building muscle increases your resting metabolic rate. I'm going to say a lot of the same shit that I already said. So just keep that in mind. Meaning you burn more calories at rest. Over time, this can lead to a significant increase in your daily energy expenditure. And in my experience, I've seen clients boost their metabolism 500 calories after doing this process. Okay. So they thought my maintenance is 2,000. We got them up to 2,500. They thought their maintenance was 2,500. We got them to 3,000. It's freaking awesome. It preserves lean body mass when losing weight. It's important to preserve lean body mass. Losing weight without preserving lean body mass can slow the metabolism down and look less toned. By engaging in resistance training and building muscle, we can ensure that your weight loss comes primarily from burning body fat stores. Again, muscle tissue is metabolically active, meaning it burns more calories than fat tissue. By increasing your muscle mass, you can create a more efficient fat burning machine. Additionally, building muscle, the process of it requires energy, contributing to overall calorie expenditure. And then long-term success. Building muscle sets the foundation for long-term weight loss success. Regardless of your ultimate goal, whether it's losing weight or improving overall body composition, building muscle should be the priority. Muscle mass makes it easier to maintain weight loss and achieve a leaner, more toned physique. I cannot build muscle without adequate energy intake, nor what we'll talk about next, protein. And so you have that friend, I am that friend, who can go on vacation and eat and drink till their heart's desire, come back and not gain anything. Why? Because I've trained my body to be a furnace for energy. Why? Because I train heavy. I build muscle. I take creatine. I hit my protein. I'm not training at the same, small weights, what we'll talk about, doing the same type of workouts. I am doing compound movements. I'm focusing on progressive overload, and that is helping me. And so some of the mistakes I put in here that people often do, especially women, is they avoid lifting heavy due to fears of becoming too bulky and because they underestimate their strength capabilities. This avoidance can significantly limit the effectiveness of their strength training routine. They're not lifting heavy enough, right? So lifting heavier weights is essential to building strength and muscle mass. It challenges the muscle, leading to greater gains and improvements in overall fitness and metabolic health. They also neglect progressive overload. A common mistake is to not progressively challenge the muscle by increasing the weight or the intensity of the workouts. Without progressive overload, muscles will not continue to grow or strengthen over time. And progressive overload involves increasing weight, frequency, number of reps, sets, balance. There's many things. This principle is crucial for continuous improvement and avoiding plateaus. I promise you guys, as I tell my clients, we are not trying to make you look any sort like a lot of people come in here, they want to feel really strong, they want to look great, they want to feel good in their bodies. A lot of people are looking for longevity. Lifting heavy is a big part of that. And lifting heavy, just like those before and after pictures, are the main difference, right? It's the main difference of being someone who is, I'm going to use a word, don't shoot the messenger, skinny fat versus shapely. Think marathon runner versus sprinter body, right? What we don't want to do is have an overemphasis on cardio. So let's talk about cardio in regards to metabolic adaptation, right? Cardio, while very good for the heart, right? And we can get a lot of cardiovascular benefits from brisk walking, right? If we do it over time, this can lead to an adaptation to conserve energy, right? So think about that battery, right? That battery knows that during this time, you're going to suck energy out of it, right? And so it will conserve itself over, for the rest of the day so that the next time that that suck of energy comes out, it has a bit of a store. So what does that mean? When I run for long periods of time, my body says, I'm going to be burning like a lot of energy during that time. So outside of that hour of running, I'm going to slow down everything else, just like the calorie deficit, right? On top of that, if I need to conserve energy, what I don't want in my body is metabolically active tissue or energy consuming tissue, AKA muscle. So excessive cardio pares down muscle. Okay. And so it's one thing to run here and there, do it because you like it, do it for, your mental health. It's another thing to think that long-term running is going to help build and shape your body and or boost your metabolism. Another mistake I see people make is avoiding compound movements. People will focus on things like glute kickbacks, especially on social media, or they'll do this thing where they're like squat to a bicep curl. It's like, no, if you're going to squat, squat. Get a barbell or some heavy dumbbells and squat. If you're going to bicep curl, bicep curl. Why? Because a squat weight is going to be 10 times more than your bicep curl. You have just done yourself a disservice by doing this movement, right? You're missing the mark. You might have some nice biceps, but your compound movements move multiple joints and multiple muscles at one time. It's more bang for your buck. Or a bicep curl, right? It's just that. And if I'm holding bicep curl weight, what I'm not doing is putting a load on my squat. So therefore my squat is just a movement. There's nothing that I'm getting from it. And then lastly, ignoring proper nutrition. Strength training requires adequate nutrition, which we'll talk about, particularly protein for muscle growth and repair. One thing I think I talk about, yeah, is, I'll get to that. People tend to think they're in a maintenance, they can just eat whatever the hell they want. So we talked about reverse diet, we talked about strength training. Now we talk about a high protein diet. Protein boosts metabolism. Okay. Consuming a diet high in protein can significantly impact your body's metabolism, leading to an increase in the basal metabolic rate. The basal metabolic rate is the amount of energy, again, we expend in a day. Protein has a higher thermic effect of food because it takes longer for the body to break it down compared to carbohydrates or fats, meaning your body uses more energy to digest, absorb, and metabolize protein. Protein, of course, helps us gain muscle growth. We can do all of the workouts in the world, but if we're not hitting adequate protein, we're missing the mark. We're basically, as they say, building a house without the bricks. Okay. Um, I'll come back to that in a second. And then obviously, so say that you get injured and you're like, I'm going to lose all my gains. If you simply hit your protein targets, you will prevent muscle loss. I've seen this in many clients. So I'm going way over, as always. Just want to go through this. What are mistakes people make in the reverse diet? The question, though, is there a heart rate threshold when doing something like cardio? Now, it really depends on the person and how like healthy they are in regards to their heart rate. I don't have a lot of knowledge in cardio zones because I don't focus on it. But I will tell my clients, if you're at like steady state, we're not getting over like 130 beats per minute, right? So we're not getting into some of those higher cardio zones. But I will say your girl is not, I don't do a lot of research on that simply because I don't believe in it. No. All right. Few mistakes and then I'll let y'all go. Reverse dieting is a strategic approach. What it is not is a free for all. This is where you gain weight. Okay. Because people be like, but I've been through a reverse diet. It didn't work for me. You did it wrong. Okay. One common error is we increase too rapidly, right? Which I don't do that. We'll increase. Sometimes it'll take me a month to increase somebody, right? We will slowly increase, but remember, if you're doing this on your own, don't suddenly jump. We want to slowly increase over time. People often overestimate how many calories their body needs during a reverse diet, or my favorite, they underestimate what 2,500 calories actually is. I will see people be like, well, I have these calories, and then they'll go and like eat all the things. And then they're like, see, I gained body fat. I'm like, no, girl, 2,500 calories really is not that many calories. I know in your mind it seems like it, but if I put 3 like whole meals in front of you with some good fats, some higher, higher fatty proteins, butters, things like that, you're going to hit it pretty quickly. And so understand that this is not a free for all. You still have to be aware and have some structure. Also, on top of that, solely focusing on the number of calories. This is another thing people do. If we are trying to build a lean, strong body, we have to feed the body proteins, carbs, and fats. The quality of food matters. People will stop tracking in their reverse diet, and not everyone has to track, but people will stop tracking in the reverse diet. They won't adjust because now maybe someone got to their goal weight and now they kind of stop working out. They think that they're in maintenance. So I'll maintain. No, you won't. Your maintenance is based on your activity level. So if your activity level changes, guess what? Your total maintenance needs to change. How would I do that? Bring you down 100, see where you're at. Bring you down 100, see where you're at. And my favorite, expecting rapid change or focusing solely on the scale rather than other means of progress. Building muscle takes time. For some of you, you just started strength training and maybe you did see some good gains in the first part of your training because we call those newbie gains. But someone like me who's been strength training for over 20 years, it takes me, I might get half a pound of muscle, if that, per month when I'm training. Okay. Now for you guys, it may be a little bit different. Obviously, for me, I'd have to go into a bulk, which we haven't even talked about here today. I'd have to go into a bulk to build more muscle, meaning that I have to eat more than I'm burning and do that in a very strategic way. That would be one of the ways that I could build. But if I'm at maintenance, I'm only building maybe a half a pound to a pound of muscle per month. And don't forget, this is why you're here. We are here to guide you through this. I thought this was like super clear in regards to my presentation, but even reading it, I'm like, this is still confusing. Trust the process. I tell everyone, I want you to be a testimonial at the end of this. And I know that sounds funny, but you forget, like, people think that's going to make me fat. Why would I do that to you? Unless that's your goal, then I will do that for you. I'm not going to do that to you. Your coach isn't going to do that to you. We're here to help you reach your goals, but also manage that distorted thinking, which we haven't even touched on. We can adjust as needed, right? This is, if it's not for you, you decide. If you want to do it, what you want to do, meaning what you've done in the past is what has kept you stuck, right? So rather than this is how I've been told, this is what I've always done. Yeah, that's why we've been in this hamster wheel of gaining weight and losing weight. Maybe it's time to look for a different approach, right? And stay focused on the plan and be consistent and enjoy more food. Awesome. Okay. So when you're very full at 1,800 calories, including having eaten you can't possibly eat more. Is it okay to the processed stuff? No. Great question. When you are full at 1,800 calories, the first thing I'm going to look at is adding low volume whole foods. So low volume, high calorie, whole foods. I'm going to have you add things like olive oil, nuts, seeds, nut butters, butter, ghee, higher fatty yogurt, higher fat cottage cheese, higher fat meats, because I can give you a really nice dish that is low volume, high calorie, still whole foods. You won't feel as full because you don't have this high volume meal. So I'd want to start there. And then the nice thing is that as you eat that amount in a way that fills your body, your metabolism will push up some more. So then that 1,800 will feel a bit like a deficit over time. So then you'll repeat it again. So that's where I would start, is low volume, high calorie, whole foods. Again, to repeat, that's your avocado, your salmon, your chicken thighs, your steak. Oh, yeah, girl, get that oil in. Hey, you're Italian. Don't ever forget the oil. Your oils, your butters, peanut butter. Get peanut butter back. Remember all the shit that you had to cut out, right? Or you cut out of your life because it was bad or whatever someone told you. Like, bring it back. Bring it back in. It wants to be loved too. My fat ratio is higher, then that's something you guys have to talk about, right? And I will tell you this, Francine, I talked a lot about macronutrients, and I do want clients at some point hitting certain macronutrients, especially when they don't have a structure around that, right? I might have some clients not getting in enough fats, which help with our hormones. I might have clients that were keto when they walked in and didn't have enough carbs, even for like brain functioning, right? But eventually, when I'm working with someone, I'll say, okay, you've got this down. You're around the same, on average each week on your carbs and fats. So when we get to certain points, I'm not having them hit particular goals for carbs and fats. I will say I still want to see your protein intake, and then they will let the carbs and fats fall, is how I explain it to them. So for someone who's never tracked carbs, fats, and proteins, I do want them to approach that to just kind of see what their body likes, how they feel. But yes, that's something you guys can definitely talk about, is like, okay, I do need higher fats because I'm adding more of these low volume foods. Great questions. I don't have anyone after this, surprisingly. So if y'all have any other questions, let me know. I'm here for this. Hopefully this was helpful. Again, it's a lot of information. I really try to make it like as clear cut as possible. I will have this in the drive so you guys understand it. But again, just remember, just like that battery, right? If we are, and the way that they explain it on Mind Pump was like, if we know that the stock market sucks or the market sucks, we are going to reduce our spending or we're going to conserve our spending, right? If the market is great, then we're going to spend more. And they use that example, right? When it comes to this kind of metabolic adaptation that the body does. If the body's not getting what it needs, it's going to slow things down, making weight loss very difficult. If it is getting what it needs, it's going to ramp things up, burn more at rest, and ultimately you can eat more, maintain, even maintain weight, maybe even gain some muscle and even lose body fat. So work with your coach and get uncomfortable because that's really what this is about. We are breaking through messages that we've been given for decades that eat less, move more. When y'all know the reason you're here is that that no longer serves you. So rather than spinning on that hamster wheel, let's try something different. Remember, testimonial. Be my testimonial, y'all. All right, that is it. I don't think we have any other questions. Have a lovely rest of your day. Goodbye. Goodbye.